Making sacred space. So cleansing, blessing, and keeping sacred space. Sacred space is synonymous with sacred grounds, a sacred site, holy grounds, a holy place, hallowed grounds. It all basically is a synonym for when grounds are kept as a sacred space. We do create temporary sacred space every time we cast a circle and we're doing any kind of spell work or petitioning deity. We are creating a sacred space to encircle us while we're doing these practices. But we're talking about, instead of a temporary space, trying to create one that is going to remain. Many religious sites have dedicated worship and ritual sites. Those are all sacred spaces. There's many different ways of making sacred space, but today I'm going to talk about one that we're actually going to be doing in a couple weeks at our ritual, because we're going to be dedicating our new sanctuary and our new building. So, steps to making sacred space that we're going to follow today. First, you prepare yourself. Then we're going to be preparing their space. We're going to talk about cleansing spaces, casting a circle, building up the protection, because we want this thing to remain. We're not casting a circle and then letting it go. Establishing energy, that's what we use to keep it going. And then we're going to talk about how to maintain and reinforce. So, preparing yourself. You prepare yourself, body, mind, and soul. Clean yourself as to not bring what you don't want into the space, because we are establishing a start. So on Sunday the 31st, I'm going to ask everyone who's coming to please prepare yourself and get yourself ready if you're going to participate. Preparing your space. So we are going to do our cleansing and our purifying and our building up of sacred space, we need to prepare the space. You want the space to be prepared for the use it's going to be had. Yeah. It's going to be a dedicated grounds. So you want the space to be able to define. Sometimes that it would be useful to have an actual visual representation for the circles we're going to be creating and casting all the time, and that is a practice that is timeless. You define the space in the physical world. You also define it as to meet the needs of what you're going to have. You identify the space's intended use and prepare it for that. Scale of the space is meant to meet your needs. So if this is a personal, private space, you don't want to try to maintain sacred space over the entire block that you live in, because there's lots of things going on. You want to establish the space that you're going to have. You also want to design it to give yourself a little room to grow. So if this was a small altar space, but they wanted to be able to end up expanding, they would add the pews and allow it to open up, and they would want to bless the entire grounds. So we'll be forming a balance there. The easiest one for our particular one is because we have defined property. So we're going to try to make it all. And this is the property we're going to be moving into. This is a street view picture while it was for a sale, but that's the land that's been cleared off. We have this wonderful tree, which for me already is casting a circle, as you can see in its shadow right there in the picture. So this is part of the space that I want to dedicate, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I wanted to just pause the presentation, share this, and let you all have a concept of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be blessing both in the building and the sanctuary and the surrounding grounds, because we're going to be using that outside space a lot, especially us with the cups. All right, so now we're going to talk about cleansing space. This is one of the most common practices many people are familiar with, although not everyone agrees with the use of smudging. But smoke cleansing is one of the oldest forms of cleansing spaces that are used in many different cultures and ways. So you can see very different groups are all have the concept of the smoke being a cleansing environment. So that's one thing we'll be able to do, is spread smoke and burn the appropriate herbs. We can use a besom. Here's a couple of mine. A besom is a commonly used magical tool used to sweep away negative energies and emotions and prepare the space. You want to store your besom upright to help contain the energy it has. So don't stand it up in the corner like a household broom. The one we have, I'm holding with the flowers, was actually one gifted to CUUPs right at our Beltane. So we've been using it since. So besom is one thing for using that. Now, sound is commonly used to help break up energies and help clear the space. So drumming, ringing bells, or using our voices, whether that's singing or chanting, can help stir things up so we can sweep it away. And fire and light. Oftentimes, fire can definitely have a purifying element, so spreading the light from the fire around your space is going to be part of that cleansing process. And a very common practice is to identify the way your movement is going to be. So moving with or shins, counter sunwise, counter clockwise, that is also called a left-hand turn. That is supposed to be a movement that is dispelling or pushing out. So if you're, as we do, what we're going to do during our actual ritual is I'm going to have everyone participating have a different way that you're going to be using the cleansing space. Some of you might be using a besom, other ones might have drums, carrying some burning smoke, carrying a flame. All of these will be different people participating. And even if you don't have another tool, you can raise your voice. And we're all going to participate in clearing out that space, going from the inside and spiraling out, pushing all of the energies out to clear that space before we go and use it. And now, once the canvas is prepared, we're ready to cast our circle. We're ready to establish the defined boundaries of our space. This is one of my favorite pieces of artwork that depict a circle being cast so you can see it. I like the energy there. And it is an example of different ways of casting a circle. In this case, we're using you have the choice of using a magical tool. That would be, in this case, I think a wand or a staff. I can't quite tell if it goes all the way up the arm. But you can be using an aphame, a wand, a staff, a sword. Many different practices are used to cast that circle. But the casting it of the physical move, the physical action, the physical tools, both for the banishing and the casting, the cleansing and building up energy, it's not just the tools itself, it is the energy that you're going to be pouring into it. And so we're going to ask everyone to participate in casting the circle. And just as we spiraled our way out, we're going to spiral our way back in from the outside perimeter, working our way back towards the center. In addition to some magical tools, we're going to have fire and lights used Just as they use to break up energy, they can be used to build up energy. So as long as we have that intention. And as I was saying, it's that energy you're pouring into it. It's important that we're all going to be visualizing this circle. And this circle is not just a flat circle, it's a sphere. It is the space all around us. So that's something that we're going to help visualize, a protective space being established over the entire space. And once again, moving in this case, deocile, or clockwise, or sunwise, or a right-hand turn. That direction, as opposed to pushing out, is pulling in. It's like a vortex of building up energy, pulling everything towards the center and upwards. So that's the visual flow of energy we're all going to be trying to sympathetically recreate together. The more people that we get to participate, the better we're going to have this. The reason we're going to be doing all this extra focus on just casting the circle is this isn't just a circle for a ritual. We're casting a circle that's going to be the foundation for other rituals and services and everyday practice. So we're creating this as sacred space. So that's why we're emphasizing what we a lot of times we just think of as the little steps. And so building up the protections. So you've established this energy, we're all in it, we understand it, but we have to somehow use it to channel and protect. And so you can channel elemental energies, you can identify the energies that are of the space, whether it's the air or the morning light from the east. The space will be receiving at high noon a fierce Florida sun, so that is definitely that fire energy. In the west, we would call on waters. Here being in Florida, we would be visualizing all of the energy coming from the Everglades, being our wet west side. And the cleansing rains come to help reinforce the space that we are establishing. And the space is rich with green space that we're going to be developing. So with that, we're going to be able to call on the energies of the earth and the green growing trees. And as we develop a further gardening, calling on that energy to be continuously used in establishing our space. And finally, we can dedicate our own energies, but we can also petition deity. If you work with deities, not everyone does, we would ask that you would petition the ones that you have the greatest connection to. We have some that would be an obvious choice for us, but there's lots of different possibilities. We will be naming some of them out loud, but we will give opportunity for everyone to ask their own petition for aid in this dedicated space. So potential deities we may want to call on. We are definitely an earth-based practice with the general practices of many different kinds of pagans. The Earth Mother in all of her many forms be something to ask for protective energies, nurturing and fostering of life and growth. The sun provides a cleansing agent, so it can help on re-cleansing and keeping the space clear of all the negativity. But at the same time, it is an energy source. It is a power supply. The sun is one of the oldest things we have seen as gods. Other gods have that manifestation. There's a sun god in pretty much every pantheon. So you can call the one that speaks to you, but calling on the sun. Now, this is Lunasa, so a lot of the times around this ritual are tied to the Celtic pantheon. So specifically in the Celtic pantheon, Bridget would be the fire goddess of the hearth and home. She's also the goddess of productivity and the goddess of creativity, all things we want to foster for our community. So that would be a natural goddess to call on. Hestia, or Vesta, she's the Greek goddess of the hearth and home and the central fire that establishes home for all of the gods. So that is a powerful concept to create for our central home. And if you're in the Norse pantheon, you might call on Thor, who is a common god asked for protection. So if you're trying to establish this as a particularly safe space to protect against outside forces, that is exactly what Thor does. But also the goddess Frigg provides blessings. She is not just a goddess for the home, but she is a goddess for she establishes the organized side of the kingdom. Odin doesn't do it alone. Okay, so as an example, a blessing from deity we might call on is praying to Hestia. This is a written prayer that has been shared. So I'm citing the author here. Hail Hestia, Lady of the Hearth, Keeper of the Flame. Whether you are, wherever you are, the gods have a home. Enter this space, make it your own. Give me your blessing and guidance. Hallow this rite, blessing each, just desire. Be welcome here, now and always. So that's just an example of the kind of blessings that might be appropriate to try to establish God, not just now, but now and always. You want them to remain or have a presence. Unlike a normal ritual, remember, we're trying to establish a space that's going to continue. And now we had to establish the energy. So once we've asked ourselves to provide the energy, we've asked the deities to help reinforce us, we've called on the elements to fuel this, it's going to need to be built up and strengthened. So if it was deity, you're going to want to make regular recognition and offering. Deities do not like to be forgotten. Extra recognition there. A common offering is incense, so maybe we would establish a space for that. This is something that we don't necessarily have to figure out on Sunday, but recognize what we do and how to reinforce it. Recharging of the energies, recognizing those elemental energies and how they are going to reinforce, not just help build our space, but hold our space. And looking for other ways to renew the space. Any kinds of improvements are going to strengthen this space. So that's something we're going to be doing a lot of, because we're not just establishing the space and keeping it as is. We're establishing space and we're growing hopefully a home for not just the UU, but for our CUUPs and the community. So here's some other ways that people try to reinforce and blessings. These are prayer wheels. So people would go and spin those just to add that extra energy. It's saying the prayer again when it spins. So different cultures do this in very different ways, and we can recognize what's going to work for us. All right. So maintaining and reinforcing, we're pulling in that energy to power the things that we have asked for. So using the space is providing energy to the space. So every time we hold a ritual, every time we hold a meeting, as long as the space is still being used, that's going to help establish it. Maintaining the space the physical space. So like I said, improving the space is doing that maintenance, and the maintenance of the physical space is going to maintain the spiritual space that's established there. So it's going to help maintain the sacred space. So regularly replenishing and renewing. Oftentimes in our last space, we had an egregore that we energized on an annual basis. And I could see us definitely wanting to incorporate seasonal blessings and seasonal activities into to this. And so those are the repeated dedications.